Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Jessica Carroll, and I am the Interim Program Manager for Measure 110, and I will be assisting Sabrina Garcia with facilitation for today's meeting. The Oversight and Accountability Council welcomes and encourages community input. Members of the public are invited to submit public comments or get on our interested parties email list by emailing oha.measure110@odhsoha.oregon.gov. We will go ahead and drop that email address into the chat. That email address and more information can also be found on the Measure 110 OAC website, which we will also drop in the chat. For more information or support with community engagement, please contact Cindy McConnell. OAC members have asked that OHA and other staff who are present in the meeting space introduce yourselves in the chat. Please share your role with the agency, and if you're a subject matter expert, your area of expertise. And with that, I'm going to hand it on over to Sabrina Garcia.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here on this fine Wednesday afternoon to the Oversight and Accountability Council. I'm going to turn it over to Tiana for attendance for today's meeting.
Good afternoon. Amy, are you here?
I am here.
Thank you, Amy. Blue?
Here.
Thank you. Carlos?
Here.
Caroline?
Here.
Dharma?
I'm here.
Thank you. Henry?
Here.
Hubert? I did not see Hubert. Jackie?
Here.
Hi, Jackie. Keisha?
Here.
Thank you, Keisha. Leticia? I'll come back. Melinda? Morgan? Nicole?
Here.
Hi, Nicole. Oh, Nisha. Hi, Nisha.
I'm here.
Hi,
Hi, Anisha.
this is
Ron.
Melinda. I'm here as well.
Oh, okay. Hi,
I
Melinda.
couldn't find the mute button. Thank you.
Ron. Sabrina.
I'm here.
Hi, Sabrina. Zeb.
I'm here.
Hello. Tori. Okay, and I believe that, oh, and we have Bessie as well. Hi, Bessie.
Here.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you very
Turning
much.
it back over, Sabrina.
Thank you very much, Tiana. So today in our discussion for our agenda items, we're going to be talking about continued our lease spaces conversation, and possibly with the vote. Kristen will be leading that conversation. We'll have some OHA updates from Jessica, and then we'll have further discussion about site visits and what that may or may not look like. And Blue will be helping present with that. And now I would like to welcome Bessie Scott. She is our new Deputy Behavioral Health Director. And Bessie, would you like to take time to introduce yourself? And welcome.
Thank you so much. Yes, I'm so happy to be sharing this space with you all. This is day number 3 for me. So I appreciate you giving me grace and being here and jumping right in. I like how you guys roll. It's pretty awesome. I am happy to be in this space, coming from a systems design work in all the continuums of the social determinants of health. So I've set up programs for school districts, housing authorities, enforced fair housing across different states, and have public health and behavioral health in my background. I come to this work from my own lived experience and having houselessness at a young age, and knew that I was going to be an advocate with family members struggling with various addictions. So this work is values-based and purpose-driven for me, and I'm just so grateful to be working with you all. So thanks for having me.
Thank you very much, Bessie, and thank you very much for being here and welcome, and very pleased to meet you. If nothing else, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Kristen for our lease space conversation.
Thanks, Sabrina. And Sydney, could you pull up the slides from last week? Thank you. So this is a continuation of the discussion that we had to table due to running out of time last week. As a quick just reminder, our current grant agreements with the Byrne partners imposes an obligation on grantees that when they were funded in the amount of $10,000 or more to purchase real property. The Byrne recipient had to contact the social determinants of health team at OHA and follow procedures prescribed by that unit. And on June 1st, the council voted on to require that the state's interest be secured by a trust deed or other instrument for a 20-year term. Next slide. So the tool that we are using is called a declaration of restrictive covenants that grant recipients agree to with OHA on behalf of the council. This declaration imposes a use restriction on the property for 10 years and must be signed by the Byrne partner as the owner of that property. It is recorded with the county property records, and the restrictions run with the improved property purchase, kind of regardless of who owns it. The grant does not need to be repaid if the Byrne partner meets the use restriction for the 20 years. So it's really just a tool to make sure that the investment is used for 20 years in the manner that you all approved it to be used for. Next slide. So we're running into an issue with grants that are providing funding to improve leased property that's not owned by grant recipients. The declaration of restrictive covenants tool for securing real property improvements doesn't work well for leased property because the declaration can't be recorded without the consent of the landowner. We have a few, I think it's less than 10, it might be closer to 5. Byrne partners who would like to make property improvements on properties that they lease. And the grant amounts for these property improvements are less than $300,000. Next slide. So our proposed solution is to not require a declaration of restricted covenants for current grant recipients that were previously approved to use grant funds for improving leased property if if the improvements are less than $300,000. Instead, we're proposing to amend their grant agreements to require current recipients previously approved to use funding for improvements to use the leased and improved property space for a specific term of years between 1 and 5 based on kind of an assessment of the when the grant value can be recouped. And if a grant partner breaks their lease or has to move out of their property before that term is up, they would have to repay the terms of the grant. Next slide. So this is kind of where we left off last week. We have some suggested movements, language for a movement to amend grant agreements for folks who renovate leased property for a minimum of 1 year and a maximum of 5 years. The discussion last week, I think, centered around, not wanting to hold grant recipients harmless for repaying the terms of their grant if their landlord were to break the lease. And I think the council felt pretty strongly that they didn't want to penalize grant partners or have partners worry about being penalized if the landlord broke their lease early. So we added in the red language at the bottom, the second portion of the motion, unless otherwise authorized by the OAC. And we and DOJ believe that this would give you all kind of enough final authority to choose, based on the circumstances of the grantee, to waive repayment of the grant should their landlord break their lease before their grant extension is up. So with that, I will yield the floor and see if anyone has any questions or further discussion.
Go ahead, Carolyn.
I wanted to make sure that when we, this is part of agreement language, and I just wanted to make sure that when we're talking about property and we're talking about tax and it has to be on file with the county, that there's no such thing within the 9 tribes. And so there needs to be something added where the tribes are excluded or the tribes would be dealt with on the 1-to-1. So I think it goes back about 2 or 3 slides.
And this is Ben from DOJ. Can you hear me? Am I muted?
Yes, now I could hear you.
Oh, okay. So just to clarify on that point, I don't think that this is actually a situation. I would have to check if any of the grantees we're dealing with here are tribal grantees. But I also just want to clarify the tribal grant agreement is a different form of grant agreement, and it does have different language already because of that reason. So that is something that was already addressed in the original grant agreement with Julie Johnson and with our tribal folks at DOJ. So there is already different language to account for what you just mentioned for tribes.
Thank you.
And I can confirm that none of the current partners are tribal partners that this situation applies to.
Is that sufficient, Carolyn?
Yes, I just wanted to make sure sometimes when we're doing agreements is for everyone. And so I just need to make sure. So no problem.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I think the way it was addressed earlier on when we drafted the agreements is there is a separate tribal grant agreement, and it just has more general language saying that there will be appropriate documents, but it doesn't have the more specific language that the other grant agreements have about a declaration or that kind of thing, because we do understand there are differences in the status of land and it's subject to a different sovereign. And so that is something that the language addresses.
And I understand that, but what happens, I mean, how long is this document going to be in effect? I mean, just a living document since we vote on it. And so what happens if we all change hands and everything, and someone then in the future says it did not say tribes or tribes are inclusive? Would it not be better to say in this language to make it clear that when we're only talking about counties here and just make it clear in this document? Because I understand that we have a separate agreement, but should we not? Because I know we have to do this with, when we were talking about evidence-based practices, and the tribe has a process for tribal-based practices, but if it wasn't in the language or in the statute, in the agreement, folk just said it didn't say anything about tribal-based practices, so it stands evidence-based practice. So I just want to make sure that I know that this is just for the counties. I know the tribe gets separate agreements, but I think we might want to just put a little something somewhere that the tribes are not included in this particular document or motion or agreement, or this is agreement only, right? This is not going to be in OAR or a statute or anything. This just agreement language, correct?
I think if I'm understanding what you're saying. So yes, the amendment for these particular lease properties, which are all not tribal grantees, it would be an amendment to their grant agreements that they've already signed. And again, the amendment would only be for folks who are not, there's a totally different form being used. So this would only be, for purposes of the motion, I don't know if I guess that would be where to clarify it if you wanted to make that abundantly clear. I don't see any lack of clarity, at least in terms of what you're providing instructions on with this motion, though. And I think with Kristen's confirmation too, I think that at least from my standpoint would address any issue there about who this applies to. It's just the existing grantees that have this lease situation that has arisen.
Okay, thank you.
And Carolyn, I'm comfortable when if you're comfortable with when we move the motion, if you would like to say it, so that way you can add the language, including excluding the tribes from this. And also John Collins has his hand up, and I'll get to you, Blue. I don't know if that was in reference to this conversation, John.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify something that Caroline had said. If that's okay. Yeah, just really quickly, just remember the amendment that we're talking about is placing it only on those agreements where there is a lease involved that meet the conditions that are described here. And also remember, the agreements are with a variety of different types of organizations now, not just the counties. They're with private nonprofits, counties, tribes, etc. So any of the language that would be used for those amendments would be adapted to that particular situation. So just wanted to make sure that was clear. But I think spelling it out like Caroline's asking, and as long as it fits with what DOJ needs, that's fine as well.
Thank you very much, John. And Blue.
Thank you. Yeah, I was listening to the discussion, and I'm not sure if the folks that are saying that the tribes are separate are thinking about the organizations that got tribal set-asides, which are mostly tribes, but not all of those people are tribes, because we also have the flip side where, if I remember right, I believe Siletz may have been funded through a traditional burn as well as maybe some tribal set-aside money. So I think it could be beneficial to just call out that tribes are excluded, no matter like what the funding stream is, because I'm thinking that in the future, if it's not called out too, that, we want to make sure that's clear for future grantees as well. Thank you.
And this is Ben from DOJ again. Sorry, I'm on the phone, so I can't see folks. But yeah, just to add to what John said and to the last comment, this is a form of relief that the council is providing. So if you just take a step back, remember that the requirement that the council already imposed was the 20-year lien for these grantees. And there is a group of grantees that we know about that's already a defined group that has the leased property and cannot do those 20-year commitments. So this is the council providing this option to give them some relief so they can still do the improvements on the leased property, but not do the 20-year commitment. So even just when we're using the word excluded, or the tribes are excluded, that's fine if you just want to make that super, super clear. But again, this is a form of relief you're providing to a defined specific number of grantees. None of them are tribes. And you're just allowing them to make these improvements to leased property without doing what you previously required, which is the 20-year lien.
Okay, thank you very much. And Amy, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I do. In a way, I agree with what Caroline's saying. Maybe we should put the mention in there because she's right. It's going to come back. Not everybody is understanding about things and where we're at and what we're understanding is going on. Some people need to have that language in there, and that would be like, obsessive compulsive people that have to have that direction, have to see it. So, that would be something to consider for the other people reading these amendments and these things that we're doing, these rules. So that's all I'm saying.
Okay, thank you very much, Amy. And then John, did you still have your hand up?
Oh no, sorry. I'll
Okay.
put it down. I'm getting tired now. So
I had a question. My question was, So this is only for those 5 or 10 specified organizations that are already asking for it. So there's not going to, I'm just trying to wrap my mind around, is there going to be more organizations that are going to be requesting this adjustment in the future, or is it just going to stay to those 5 or 10? And then also, so I don't know if somebody can answer that.
This is Kristen.
Oh,
I think for now, this is kind of the universe because this is what you all approved. And so we've kind of identified of the 233 grant agreements, there are only 5 or so that need this relief. I can't speak to future grants or grant cycles, but for now, you know, we have a very defined universe of providers that were approved to do really specific jobs. And so, you know, we're really just talking about this grant cycle and these providers right now, but I can't speak to the future. And I think this could be a topic of discussion for future grant agreements and just how you'd want to handle that.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to make sure of, that it was, this was to this instance, and then in the future, we might adjust, tweak, or change other things for the future grant cycles. Thank you for answering my question, Christine, and go ahead, Carolyn.
So I want people to go to the chat line because Shannon O'Fallon already put how this could be, just for clarity. And I understand it just for these 5, but I believe the way she wrote it, that we just said authorize OHA to amend county grant agreements, and that would take care of it as well in number 2. And then that way it's spelled out and there's no issue that that the tribes are not included on here. So did you see her comment in the chat line?
Yes, I did,
Okay.
Carolyn, I did see that. And then I know that we're going to take a vote before we read the motion, or before we do the motion. I see that John has his hand up, and then I'll turn it over to Ron.
Yeah, just really quickly, Shannon, would you please clarify though that not all the agreements are with the counties? These vary in terms of what they are, and the agreement again will only change if the grantee is seeking to make property improvements to a property that they're leasing. So it doesn't matter whether it says county or not in there, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. I'm not sure the discussion that y'all are having. I understand what Caroline, what you're sensitive to in this particular issue, but I don't think it needs to be spelled out here. It doesn't really add anything. If there was an agreement, the tribal agreements, if the tribes were trying to lease property, we would handle it totally differently and come bring it back to the OAC to discuss how to handle it. But we wouldn't want to insert county in here because not all the agreements are with counties.
But they're within the county.
What about non-tribal?
Yeah, so this is
Non-tribal
Shannon,
group.
right? Sorry, I wasn't intending to mean that to county, right? I wasn't, and so maybe my proposed language was not that artful. So to back up, right? In any case, I concur, right, that this only applies to the burn grantees within counties that are getting money to make improvements for leased properties. You know, if someone was looking at this motion in the future, you know, and trying to understand, you know, whether or not that this change was intended to apply to tribal grant agreements, you know, I understand that there might be some confusion if you weren't looking at the whole slide deck and didn't understand all the context. So, you know, there may be better language to use. And I mean, maybe as Ben said, just saying, you know, non-tribal grant agreements.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Ron.
That actually answered my question. I was just, that was the thing that I was gonna talk to. But I was just gonna ask that if this number 2 is gonna get changed, if that language be put in there before we move it. That was all.
I'm also in agreement with that. And I like the word non-tribal for a couple of reasons. And this was my comment was because I know there's some other organizations that fall in a line between county and tribal, and it goes really into the weeds, which we don't have time for today. So I think putting non-tribal in there kind of fixes that. And so I will, Jackie, would you like to talk?
Oh, thank you. I was just really basically agreeing that we should put something in there that says non-tribal, and that would allow the state to then create separate contracts for tribes. Won't restrict anything or anybody else, but just is very specific. This contract is for non-tribal, or tribes have their own contracts. I really am not the lawyer. I'll leave that to Caroline. She's my lawyer.
Thank you very much, Jackie. And thank you,
Yeah.
Carolyn, too. Go ahead, Ron.
No, it just kind of got me thinking, does number 1 need to change? Or is that fine? Yes. Which is Blue is asking the same thing. Does number 1 need to say authorize OHA to amend non-tribal grant agreements?
Right, it should be, this is Shannon O'Fallon from DOJ. It should be in both places before grant agreements. So number 1, authorize OHA to amend non-tribal grant agreements.
So we're looking at a PDF right now of a.
No, we're gonna get it changed. It just takes a second. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Kathy is working on changing this, and hopefully she can share. Sydney could take these slides down, and Kathy could share her screen so you can see the full, amended non-tribal version.
And Kristen, I don't think you can see it, but we have it up on screen. Sydney did it real time. So.
Oh, look at that. I wasn't even paying attention. Thank you, Sydney.
Thank you,
Smooth like
Sydney and Kristen and Jessica. And did that answer all your questions, Ron? Because if so, then I think we can go ahead and move to attendance.
Yes.
So you see my hand up yet?
Nope, not yet, Caroline.
Okay, am I next?
Yeah, you can go next. Yeah.
Okay, I would feel more comfortable at the end of the sentence if we would put federally recognized tribes exempt, or federally recognized, this does not include federally recognized tribes, because I don't want us to get into trouble then with other programs who believe they are tribal, but they're not federally recognized. So only federally recognized tribe has trust land, and that's the only time it would be exempt. Tribes can buy land out of their areas, but it has to be in trust in order to be exempt. So I think we might want to clarify it. And Jackie, and I'm not really sure because I don't think NARA, you guys still have to do lease and things like that. So I think we need to be very clear that we say federally recognized tribes. Something.
Yes, I agree with you, Caroline.
John Collins, tell me. You're good with words. But if we just end the sentence and not put non-tribal grants up there and just end the sentence with federally recognized, it does not include federally recognized tribes. Because
How about the 9 federally recognized tribes, Caroline?
Yeah, it could be the 9 federally recognized tribes, because we're the only one who has trust land.
Right, in Oregon.
Yeah.
Couldn't you say this does not apply to the 9 federally recognized tribes, and I would handle it?
Thank you, Ron. Yeah.
And also I see Shannon has her hand up. Would you like to add to this, Shannon?
Yeah, thanks, Sabrina. Shannon O'Fallon from DOJ. I guess I'm just getting a little bit worried that we are confusing concepts here. Because I just am not even sure what it would mean to say that this doesn't apply to the 9 federally recognized tribes in Oregon. Yeah, I think that we're sort of mixing apples and oranges here, right? This is intended to give, the purpose of this motion is intended to have OAC consider delegating authority to the Oregon Health Authority to amend a subset of the non-tribal grant agreements that exist in the counties, right? For grantees that have been given money to renovate leased property, and to change sort of the security requirements for those particular grantees. So there is nothing about any of this that would have any bearing on the on grant agreements that OAC has with the 9 federally recognized tribes. Carolyn, I don't want to discount what you're saying. I'm worried that it maybe just doesn't make sense.
Thank you, Shannon. And Carolyn?
It would only it depends on, if we vote on this, how long does this stay within our language? So, I mean, I'm assuming in 2024, I don't know if we're going to have to be competitive again, or we're going to continue our current agreements and extend it another year or two. So I guess it just depends on if this is something that is standing forever. I mean,
No. Right, Carolyn? Yeah, it's Shannon.
Yeah.
So this only applies to the current grants that we have right now. And so it's not going to apply going forward. There are going to be, new terms. And in fact, when the OAC voted to offer grant extensions to the current grantees. And so DOJ is working on, some slight amendments to those exceptions, and sort of this kind of language will be built in. And what we can do is make sure that we're looking at the tribal agreements with the 9 tribes, because as Ben said, I think, right, there's different language for that.
Yeah. And I agree with what Shannon said. And Caroline, if this helps as well, it's not even all of the current grantees, right? This is not amending the form. This is amending that specific subset of grantees. So those are the only grants that would be amended if they want to go ahead and do the improvements to lease property. There will be separate from that a new revised template that goes to the council for the next grant cycle, but this is not part of that discussion.
Okay, so thank you everyone for your support and understanding, I guess, what I was trying to get at. And so I just want to make sure I understand it. This only applies to probably 5 folks who currently have agreements that have been signed, and this is just going to create some clarity for these particular grants only. Correct? Okay.
Correct.
Thank you very much. And Blue, you have your hand up?
Yes, I do. Thank you. I'm not seeing where it specifies that it's current grantees in this language, which is what I think DOJ has been saying. And I don't know if we need that in there anywhere, just so that I'm clear that it's only this, I don't know, this funding cycle.
Thank you, Blue. And Shannon, did you have something to add to that?
Yeah, thanks, Sabrina. Blue, if you see in number 1 here, right, it says grant agreements that currently provide funding for the improvement of leased property. So that's where you get at the subset, right? So it's only grantees that have been given funding for the improvement of leased property. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Shannon. And Jackie?
Yeah, I just, again, want to just make sure that somehow, and again, the legal part, I don't know, it's noted that this arrangement is just for these particular contracts at this point in time, so that it doesn't go forward that way. Because once somebody sees there's a template, they may decide to use it for other funding and try to apply it to other things. And so I wouldn't want the tribes to be left out in the future. It's kind of what I'm thinking. Does that make sense? Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Jackie. And Shannon?
Oh, sorry. I didn't lower my hand.
Okay. Do we have any further discussion before we take roll so we can try to move the motion? If no discussion for right now, I will turn it over to Tiana so we can take roll or attendance. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabrina. Amy. Hi, Amy. Are you
Yes.
there?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Blue.
Here.
Carlos.
Here.
Caroline.
Here.
Dharma.
Here.
Thank you. Henry. Henry, are you able to hear me? Okay, I'll come back. Hubert.
Here.
Jackie.
Here.
Keisha.
Here.
Leticia.
Here.
Melinda.
I'm here.
Hello. Morgan.
Here.
Hi, Morgan. Nicole.
Here.
Hi, Nicole. Onisha. Onisha. Ron.
Here.
Sabrina.
I'm here.
Zab.
I'm here.
Tori. Bessie.
Here.
Bessie. So I'm gonna just really quick, Henry, I know Henry was here, but maybe he had trouble unmuting. I'm not sure if he came back or not. Okay, so, and then we have Onisha still. I'm not sure if she came back. And no Tori. Okay. Thank you, Sabrina. Back to you.
Do we have 15?
What was the count?
So we have 16
Perfect.
and one non-voting member.
Perfect. That's quorum.
Ron or Carolyn, would one of you guys like to move this motion?
Sure, I'll move it. I move
you.
to authorize OHA to amend non-tribal grant agreements that currently provide funding for the improvement of leased property, to require the grantee to make the dedicated use of improvements for the intended purposes for a minimum of 1 year and a maximum of 5 years, if the grant funding is equal to or less than $300,000. Declarations of restricted covenants will not be required in such cases. 2, the non-tribal grant agreements must require grant recipients who do not comply with the full dedicated use term to repay grant funds dispersed for real property improvements in the amount proportionate to the percentage of the dedicated use period not fulfilled by recipient unless otherwise authorized by the Oversight and Accountability Council, the OAC.
I second that. Any further discussion? With no further discussion, I would like to give it to Tiana or Jackie has something.
Oh, I just wondered if that's where we should say something about the non-federally recognized tribes, the 9 federally recognized tribes, not just non-tribal, Ron. If we could make that amendment, it would help, because there's a whole other bunch of politics around that way. Just trying to really make it simpler. I know it seems like a lot of words, but
Yeah,
it will help in the long run.
Right, I felt that an advice from DOJ, particularly Shannon O'Fallon, to address that a few moments ago, that it was somewhat determined that I'm looking at Caroline, that it was not necessarily going to go into this document.
So I think the way I understood it is the fact that the only tribal grant agreements is with federally recognized tribe, and there's no other tribal agreements with non-federally recognized tribes. So if that's correct, then this language should be okay.
Is that satisfactory?
Yeah,
Jackie?
I think Jackie, I think in some other instance, I think we just need to, you know, even whatever we do, when we say county, we should put slash non-federally recognized tribes or tribal entities, you know, because we always included NARA. But now we have a whole bunch of other programs who said they are tribal. And that's what kind of concerns me, because they're not federally recognized. So, but I think, Jackie, for this instance, since all the 9 tribes and NARA has a separate tribal grant agreement, I think this one only applies to current recipients, and it just to clarify the language because of some lease agreements or property that they're buying. So I think this is okay for this occasion, Jackie.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, I would like to turn it over to Tiana to take the vote.
Hey, Amy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Blue, how do you vote?
Yes.
Carlos, how do you vote?
Yes.
Caroline?
Yes.
Dharma, how do you
Yes.
vote? Henry, how do you vote?
Yes.
Hubert?
Yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
Keisha?
Yes.
Leticia?
Yes.
Melinda?
Yes.
And Morgan, how do you vote?
Yeah. Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
And then did Anisha come back to vote? Okay. Ron, how do you vote?
Yes.
Sabrina?
I vote yes.
Zeb, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. 16 yes votes.
That passes with 16. Yeah. I think Ron is waving goodbye. Goodbye, Ron.
Yeah, I'm really sorry. I'm confused about the schedule. I thought we were on a every other week schedule. I thought that had already started, so I double booked myself with something else today. And so I've got to hop out. I actually left that meeting to come here, and I'm now going back to that meeting. I apologize, everyone.
Thank you,
But,
Ron.
Bye now.
Bye. Jessica, would you like to take it away now? Are we going to the, yeah, are we going to the OHA updates now?
Of course, yes.
Okay, awesome. Thank
OHA
you.
updates. We usually do this at the end, but I just wanted to make sure that we got these fit into our schedule. So hi everyone, I missed you. Feel like I haven't seen you all in so long. OHA does have several updates. The first is, are you ready? All original grant agreements have been officially signed, including all of the tribal set-aside agreements. So all grant agreements have been signed and executed. This is a moment to celebrate. Take a big breath, exhale. Congratulations. It's been a lot of work. There's a lot of work still to do, but this is a milestone to carry us into the holiday weekend. So thank you all for all your hard work. You're amazing, amazing people. Couldn't have picked a better group to go on this journey with. Second is just what Ron was alluding to with the calendar changes. So we made some changes to calendars. Like I think we've been promising that we were going to try to do that as soon as possible, and it just took us a long time to get some control over the calendar that we needed. So we sent out cancellations and then we sent out some new invites. We did send out an email that kind of described what we had done, but I just wanted to say it for us who learn better by hearing. All of your new calendar invites are correct. We did not account for every holiday forever coming up, but we will go ahead and work with those as we go. Those calendar invites are coming from my calendar because I have 2 separate individuals on this team who have delegated authority to schedule from my calendar. So if I fall off, or if I'm sick, or if I'm on, or if I win the lottery, you know, someone will still be able to make those changes to those calendar invites. Apologies, I know it's been extremely frustrating for everyone, including us, but we have remedied that. So go ahead and feel free to accept and go by those calendar dates. They will be correct. Any questions? Hearing none. All right. I think we have, so I have an update on the questions that you all asked about your appointment letters. We will be providing those answers in writing, and we're diligently working on those in the background, and we will provide those to you just as soon as we have them ready. Any questions? All right. The next thing I have is an update it's kind of exciting. So OHA has a technical assistance opportunity for organizations who would like to provide contingency management and who may need some support. So you all did authorize and fund some organizations to provide contingency management. We are able to offer them some free TA that they can either take or not. And we just wanted to let you know that that is a thing that we will be working on with grantees to determine if they are interested in receiving some free TA, technical assistance, being part of a community of practice around contingency management. It's really exciting. It is free to them. Again, they get to decide if they want to participate or not. And it hopefully will inform those best practices around contingency management for those organizations. I do want to clarify that we are not providing this to any organizations who were not authorized and funded by you to provide contingency management. So it isn't any organization. It is only those who you have already voted on to provide that service, and that is part of the work that they will be doing under ballot measure 110. Any questions on that? Okay, hearing none, I'm just going to move on. It looks like we have a equipment update. Tiana, did you want to give that equipment update? I just want to, I know what that equipment, I'm sorry, Tiana, it just came back to me. So we have sent out an email. We're going to send out another email, and I just want to prompt you all here that for those of you who have received all your equipment, you have it set up, you're ready to exclusively use your state email and state telephone number, please let us know in an email from that state email that you are now ready for us to retire any other email address that we have on file for you, so that we can start exclusively using your state email addresses. So I know it's taken some time. There's a lot of folks are out sick right now, I think everywhere, but also here. And so it's taken some time to get everybody up to speed on what they need. And we all have different needs that we are trying to meet. Understanding that when you do get to that point, please just shoot me or Sydney or Tiana or all of us an email just saying, hey, I'm ready. I'm ready to use my state email, and we will then replace any other email we have for you with that state email. Right now, what we are doing is everything that we send out, we're sending to your email on file with us right now, currently, and your state email to ensure that we're getting it to where it needs to be. But we're just hoping to, in the future, use just that state email. So we will send out another reminder on that for those of you who appreciate email reminders. Any questions on that? All right, well, that was quick. Thank you all. I am going to go ahead and pass it back to Sabrina. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jessica, and thank you everybody for the robust conversation that we had up until now. I would like to thank Blue for helping us present this next piece. Blue, are you ready?
I'm as ready as I'm gonna get. So yes,
Awesome,
if
thank
we
you.
could, if we could get the slides up, just the first slide, that would be helpful. So there were some questions from I believe multiple council members around site visits. So we made these slides to sort of help guide the discussion that we're going to have today. So if I could get the next slide, please. It's okay. So the purpose of our discussion today is just to gather information around the scope of what the Oversight and Accountability Council would like to see. So once that information is gathered, then OHA can consult with the Department of Justice to bring back information, which will help better inform the council. And then we can discuss some decisions around site visits. But for today, we won't be voting or making any motions during the conversation. It's really just to sort of gauge where people are at and how they sort of imagine or define a site visit. So if we could go to the next slide. All right, so I guess the first question is to really just check in with the council, and I don't know if we want to go through the list or if people just want to raise their hand, but we really wanted to see like how many members of the council were interested in visiting grantees, and whether that's as an individual or in groups of 2 or more. If folks want to just weigh in on that and let us know if that's something they might be interested in, they're definitely interested in, I think that could be helpful. And there are a couple folks from OHA that are going to be taking notes as we're asking these questions so that they can make sure that they document everybody's responses and we don't miss anything. Does anybody want to jump in and give their thoughts about that? Sabrina, should I call on you?
Yes, thank you. I would definitely be interested at some point with somebody. I mean, it would be nice to do that. I do see in the chat right now that Melinda Bell said that she would be interested in it. And then also Morgan, would you like me to read yours or would you like to read yours? Yeah.
Yeah, my signal, like Ron, I thought today's meeting was canceled, so forgive me if you can't hear me. I'm driving at this. So I would absolutely be interested in doing the site visits. I sent an email, I don't know if that was incorporated into this PowerPoint, but with just some sort of guiding policies that I thought, and I will hold it up right now. But yeah, either individually or as pairs. I just think for consistency's sake, especially because some council members are the only council member who live in their region in the South or the East, that for consistency's sake, we should probably say individual. And then, you know, pairs when available, like not prohibit pairs, but format this around doing individual site visits just for the sake of logistics.
Thank you, Morgan. And I'm going to leave this section up to you, Blue, so I'm going to put my hand down.
Okay, that's good for me. And then I'm hoping also that that someone from OHA is also getting the chat, that there are other responses in the chat in terms of who might be interested. And then there's a question from Keisha, and Dharma has her hand up, and I'm not sure who was first. So let's go with Dharma, and then we can have Keisha's question after Dharma.
I'm just wondering what differentiates like engaging with community members and stakeholders versus like doing a site visit on our own. I understand like we might trigger public meeting laws if there was a group of us visiting a site, but I'm just wondering what distinguishes like a site visit from just like normal community engagement.
So that's a good question. And I know that OHA is taking notes because DOJ may have some very specific answers on that. And I think this is, thinking about, it wouldn't be fair to maybe just show up and ask a grantee to show you around. So we're trying to figure out, if we need to come up with a process for this. And I think we're still defining that. And I don't know if that's helpful at all, Dharma. Or if you have any follow-up, but if not, I think maybe Keisha has I don't know if that's her only question, but just that, what is the purpose of site visits? So that's what we're trying to define today, Keisha. I don't want to assume that when I hear somebody say site visit, that it would mean the same thing, to me as it means to them. And so we are trying to dig in a little bit and get some more clarity on what each of you sort of think of when you hear site visit, what you might want to see, because it can be different, defined differently by different people. Keisha, did you want to jump in and add anything or ask a follow-up question?
I guess I was trying to get more to the point of open-ended questions and not just what people might have assumed about a site visit, but like opening it up for more exploratory, like what would be the purpose of site visits, what that would look like, what's the difference? So some of those questions.
Yeah. And we do have some questions on this slide asking if, we would see them as something observational. So just done as a way to like learn more about some of the organizations that we funded, how they operate, or do council members feel like they would see a site visit as a way to possibly provide additional oversight, because they don't necessarily have to involve oversight. And so we wanted to sort of hear from folks around that. Did you want to add anything to that, Keisha?
No.
Okay. So I see Henry's hand and Amy's hand, and then I see a comment from Morgan. So let's just go in that order. So Morgan, we'll circle back to your comments after Henry and Amy, and I apologize if you were first. I'm doing my best to try to track it. So go ahead, Henry.
Yeah, thanks. This is kind of along the lines of, what Morgan stated. The purpose of the site visit is to provide oversight to grantees and convey the grantee that we are holding them accountable. We will be inspecting their operations, et cetera, but doing so in a formal announced way with a checklist or formatted way to take notes uniformly across different organizations, wanting to let people know they're paying attention. I guess I just have a real concern. I'm going to express my concern about the council members being the individuals who are doing any kind of process around providing additional oversight in that type of way. I think that that's something that there should be a formal process that Oregon Health Authority is taking a lead on, just like that they have healthcare facility licensing certification folks that go through and do all that type of oversight for different healthcare facilities. I don't think it should be any different for burns. Like Keisha's saying, the office, maybe that's what the Office of Recovery and Resiliency does. Just like I think we ran into some problems with doing the RFGPs or whatnot, getting those scored and ultimately needed to be, to get some support from OHA. I really think that, there are folks that do this as their professional job, licensing healthcare facilities, who have professional expertise in that area. And I don't think that we as council members should be taking that on. Thank you.
Thanks, Henry. So Amy is next, and then we're gonna circle over to Morgan to check in, and then I have a question or statement after that. So go ahead, Amy.
So I am willing. So my idea of just visiting sites is just to, offer support. And support comes in many ways. Support, hey, it looks like you're doing a great job, or, oh my, I see you're struggling in this area. Let's see if we can get you some support. And just kind of getting a feel for how it's working and what's going on. I don't see that as a problem. And out here in rural,
Amy, I think you cut out, but I'll give you a couple more seconds in case you lost your reception.
What Henry's saying, but
There you go.
that's been part of the issue before is that, and I'm sorry, my granddaughter's movie's on. Part of the issue is that they didn't feel they had support. Let's give them support if we can do that. And it doesn't mean everybody has to. It just means that we're making ourselves, those that are able to, are making ourselves available to do so, to make the best possible outcome for the clients. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. And then I think we can move to the next slide, which just has some more prompts that are aligned with the discussion we're having now. And because it sounds like, Amy's trying to, Amy's vision is maybe a little bit different than Morgan's vision. And I think, Morgan, do you want to jump in at all? And
Yeah.
okay.
So I think my vision is sort of related to Amy's in that I want our grantees to feel seen, but that not just so they feel supported, but also so they feel like we're paying attention. Because I access treatment in Multnomah County at various grant-funded treatment centers. How they look on paper can be a huge difference from how they feel in reality. And to just circle this back to crime control policy, do you know what the #1 crime deterrent is? It's not what most people think. It's the certainty by which you will be caught. It has nothing to do with how much punishment you will be given. 5 days in jail is equally as much of a deterrent as 5 years in prison, as long as the certainty that you'll be caught is high. And I kind of want to apply this to our grantees. I just want them to know that we are looking, we are paying attention. I don't want it to be like oversight. We're not there to look through your records and look at data. I want you to feel seen. I want you to know that we're paying attention. I want you to know that you can share concerns with me, but mostly that we're here and we're going to see how the services that you're providing with our money are actually being delivered, how it feels on the ground. And we would just have a checklist, and we're just going to, make some notes about, the vibe, observe how staff are talking to clients, talk to a few different staffers, never be like an interrogation, not have an adversarial relationship. That's not our job. We are just there to check it out and make sure our grantees are feeling seen, and also hearing their concerns and documenting those while making a few brief notes about what we observe about the vibe and the services that they are providing. And I just think it's really important, not only for us to provide both oversight and accountability, as is our name, but to convey to our grantees that they will be being held accountable.
Thank you for that clarification, Morgan. And I believe that we will be having a future discussion at a different meeting regarding exactly what the oversight of the council specifically is and is not. And so we will be getting into that more down the line. So sorry. So there's a couple of comments from Keisha, and I just wanted to also, I forgot to give this analogy, but we want to make sure when we're thinking about this that, if I work for the health department, but if I go to a restaurant, am I going there to like eat the food and have the experience, or am I going there to check the temperature of their meats, make sure that, inside the refrigerator, things are stored in the right places and there's no cross contamination? Because those are, you still work for the health department no matter what you do at a restaurant, but that visit to the restaurant can look very different, sort of depending on what the goals are, and also what is allowable for us to do as a council. So I'm trying to just gonna scroll up. So Sabrina, I see your hand, and Keisha has put some more things in the chat, so I'm just gonna get to Keisha's stuff in the chat, and then you can go after that if that's cool. So one thing is, Keisha has mentioned the Office of Recovery and Resilience, and I am not familiar with that. So I don't know if that's something where they are actually working with Measure 110 grantees, or if they work with other grantees. I think maybe if somebody who hopefully knows could clarify that, because I don't know really what they do. And then Keisha was asking about what authority we have to give advice. And Keisha, if you want to say more about that, I'm not sure which advice you are referring to.
Oh, because some people were talking about, to go there and be supportive and, make some suggestions and things like that. So I'm just want some clarity on what we're able to say, not say, take back, per DOJ. Because that can cause a whole nother layer of liability.
Sure. And I know that the DOJ is going to address all of these concerns. And so thank you for clarifying that concern. We can definitely get some responses from them. And then I think, so Sabrina's next, and then I saw a comment from Morgan, and then Henry's hand is up. So let's try that order. And thank you everybody for your patience with me trying to flip back and forth between hands and the chat. So go ahead, Sabrina.
Yes, thank you very much, Blue. You're doing a great job. I just wanted to say, at first when I initially heard, oh yeah, let's go to different sites and, visit or whatever, I was on board with that. And then as we're rolling out the conversation a little bit more and playing with the different concepts, I'm also in alignment with what Henry said and what Keisha said. And then when I start, I'm just going to speak freely, what I start getting fearful of is when it comes to grading these rubrics or applications again, and with biasness and all these other ethical things that come into play when we're doing the applications and for the future development of the burns and what we're doing across the state. So those are some of the kind of things that are at the forefront of my mind, like, because we cannot be biased when we're doing the rubrics or the applications. And if we've been there delving around to their program and stuff like that, like Keisha said, for me, it feels a little bit more like a liability risk if we're offering advice or trying to, I also feel strongly with like what Morgan said. I do want the organizations to know, like, and be held accountable for things they're doing and not just write a pretty grant and skate right through. But I don't know if the site visits would be the way to do that. And so I'm still up in the air, but that's how I feel. I resonate a lot with what Henry said, a lot with what Keisha said, and some of what Morgan said. So I just will leave it at that, and I will turn it back to you, Blue.
Thank you, Sabrina. So in the chat from Morgan is just saying, if we rely on OHA to do site visits, they'll never get done. So we may just want to explore if these would be like just additional things on top of, maybe OHA is already doing site visits as part of grant monitoring. I don't know. But that this would sort of be for us to just learn more versus, you know, if this is for some sort of oversight or accountability, I'd also think that it needs to be equitable, meaning that like every site would be visited and not just some, because then that wouldn't maybe feel fair either. Morgan, did you want to add anything to the comment you have in the chat before I go to Henry?
Yeah, I just feel like I just want us to be reminded that the alternative to us doing site visits is most likely site visits not getting done. It's not like there's a better alternative here where OHA is going to do site visits. And I mean, OHA, please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sorry if I'm being cynical here, but it's like either we do them or no one is going to be doing them because site visits are not a regular part of their grant oversight, I feel like. So like, no, I don't even think that we are the best people to be doing these site visits, but I think we're the only people to be doing these site visits. So either we do them or I just don't think they're going to happen, honestly.
And does anyone from OHA want to jump in? Or if not, we can include that information when all of these sort of responses are gathered.
Hey, this is John. I could comment on that if you want.
Sure.
Morgan's correct. We are not doing 250 site visits. We're not set up to do that right now, although as part of our regular licensing and approval process, many of these same providers would be visited for some of the various other things that we need to do. And if we noted that they were also parts of burns, you know, we could incorporate that into the site review process that we already have. But there are some of these providers who are not part of the license set on purpose. I mean, that's part of what Measure 110 is all about, and that we're broadening out the types of providers and available services. So no, and it wasn't also in the other thing to consider is that it was not in the solicitation. There was never any mention of site visits. So I do think as y'all are discussing this ongoing, you know, you need to keep what your parameters are in mind as you're trying to work through what the levers are that you have available to yourself in your particular role. So.
All right. So thank you for that. And then let me just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. So I have Henry next and Amy and Caroline. And then there's also Sabrina and Tori and Morgan have questions in the chat. And then after that, I can get to Onisha. I'm hoping I've got that as close to the actual order as possible. So go ahead, Henry.
Yeah, I just appreciate the discussion, and I want to, you know, echo Morgan's concern about the fact that, you know, there can be maybe organizations that are able to write a nice grant, and yet, you know, actually being there and looking at how these grants are operationalized on the ground and services are provided to individuals might not look the same as what the grant said. And so I think it is really important, and that's why I would you know, strongly advocate for OHA to provide support to this committee around what the licensing process looks like for organizations that are also parts of burns, if they are, as John said, able to incorporate some of that process in evaluating programs that they're already evaluating into the burn process, so that we as a committee can get help, because I think we want processes that are replicable when we are gone. When this committee is no longer, has the same members, and there is new members in another 2 years. So I really would, you know, appreciate some suggestions or support from OHA around how to create replicable processes in the future as we're building this airplane as it's flying, because I think, you know, having been contacted by, you know, people who are within burns in my community who are really interested in how they can do a good job of providing good services to the folks that they've been given burn money to give services to. I can say that, you know, I think there are some good actors who really want to make this process effective. And I think we need to be, you know, like helping those folks to try to be as effective as possible, you know? And I think a lot of those issues have to do with things that we don't have control over, like, you know, workforce retention in a community that has unaffordable housing, right? Or, you know, dealing with the chronic medical condition called addiction when we don't have the same level of buy-in in the private healthcare sector. I just think that some of these things are stuff we don't have control over. Anyway, maybe that's getting too esoteric. Thanks. Oh, I have to go. I also thought we weren't meeting today, but I really appreciate everyone's hard work.
Yeah, thank you for articulating that. I know that we should be getting some answers down the line around some of these clarifying questions. So Amy, do you want to go ahead with your question or statement?
Yeah, I think my idea of site visits is just different than what I'm hearing everyone else talk about, in a way that I'm not going to visit your site to tell you you're doing right or wrong, or to tell them where they can and can't approve. I'm going to say, hey, you know, I hear your struggles. Let me see if we can get that answered for you. And then make sure that it follows through back to the council of what a concern might be, or where a struggle is at, or what that looks like, so we can get them the support that they need. It's support, not an investigation or a site review, which is what the state does, site reviews and things like that. That's not our job. Our job would be, I don't mind, I would love to go see our tax dollars at work. I would love to see all our hard work that we've done being put to play. And if there's a struggle, heck, let's try and help that person resolve that struggle. But we're not the ones going to resolve it. We're not qualified to do that. And I think ethically, if we behave and operate ethically, which we've had this conversation before, we've all been trained in ethics, we've all been seen for that, then let's be ethical about it. It's not our job to fix this stuff, but it is our job to support the people that we just funded millions of dollars to set up these things and see, okay, I see a lack here. Is that something you're seeing? And if they say, nope, I don't see a lack, then okay, well, you know, moving on. But we need to be more involved, you guys. OHA's right. They don't have it to do that. And I'm not saying all of us need to. It's not a requirement. It's if you have the ability to go do site reviews, or go out, not reviews, but go out and do site visits, go out and visit a site. Go see what's going on. That was my view of it. Not that I'm going out to maliciously or enjoyably see what, you know, tell me what your numbers are, tell me what this is. That's not what's coming. That's coming to OHA. That's not coming to us. Do you understand what I mean? I just hope that makes sense. We need to be present. We need to be present, you guys. That's part of the problem. That's just part of the problem. We need to be present. That's all I got. Thank you, everybody, for letting me share.
Thank you, Amy. Yeah, I know. I when I heard site visit, I thought more of just like almost like show and tell. We can see how folks have used our funding, but that is different than how other folks have discussed maybe what they envisioned as a site visit, and maybe we could give them different names, like a review versus a visit or an observation.
Right, and that's
Um,
not our job. I mean, we're
yeah.
not qualified to do that. So let's keep it where we're qualified to do, and that is just to go say hi.
Yep. Thank you. So I'm gonna let Caroline go next, and then there's some questions in the chat, and then I have Onisha as well. So go ahead, Caroline.
Okay. I think we need to be very cautious and not open up a Pandora box. I think we are probably being unrealistic because we're not really clear the intent of all this. I hear all our thoughts, but I don't know who's making the decision, who's creating the rules. Again, I am in agreement. I don't see anything in the bill that mandates that we do site visit. Maybe site visit is not even the correct word because too many of us see a site visit as coming in to get a letter of approval. I mean, that's how I see site visits. And so I think we need to collaborate with Oregon Health Authority or health system, whoever we're calling the staff, that this should be done together. And in terms of staff from the state, in case there's some technical type of questions versus us who might be the friendly side to just kind of see what's going on. I'm not sure how we choose the sites. And I think we really need to go back to why we're doing this. We barely got the money out to some of these programs. They're barely starting. And then to get a site visit all of a sudden, I think it's going to be a little intimidating for some of these programs. So I think we need to really seriously think this whole process completely through, because I don't want to open up a Pandora box like we did when we put out the grant proposal, and then we realized it was overwhelming. It was too big for us to handle because we didn't probably think this process through. So I'm not sure we're even to the point of site visits right now. I mean, we might be looking 6 months down the line, but I'm just really concerned that we don't open up this Pandora box that we can't control. It's a statement, not a question.
Thank you. No, that's helpful too. And I know OHA is going to note that. And I think, you know, I've definitely seen other organizations visit some grantees. And so in my mind, I thought, well, it would be weird if I just walked in somewhere that I knew was funded and said, hey, I wanted to see what this looked like. And so, you know, there was sort of the ask around, if I did want to do that, could I do that? What would that look like? What would be appropriate? So that we aren't just trying to catch people off guard or, you know, putting sort of undue stress onto our grantees. So I've got a couple things in the chat as far as questions, and one is from Sabrina to get more information on the Office of Recovery and Resilience and what their role may or may not be with Measure 110 grantees specifically. And Jessica, did you want to jump in, or do you want me to keep going through those and then call on you?
Either way, I just want to say that we can bring back more information. The Office of Recovery and Resilience doesn't work with Measure 110 grantees. Like, they do work with Measure 110 grantees, but because they have other funding and they're doing other things, but it isn't specifically, you know, targeted to Measure 110 grantees. So, but we can also bring a lot more information about what they already do. Absolutely.
Great. And then gonna just scroll through a couple more of these real quick. Tori had a question about other accountability options outside of site visits, such as surveying people who use the service. And I know that we've had discussion, maybe just among the tri-chairs, I'm not positive, about finding a way that people can give feedback on their experiences, individuals as consumers. And it's not completely set up yet, but we can definitely bring more information around that process.
Okay, if I can, this is Tori speaking. I also, when looking at, you know, what would be the goal, I think a lot of these would take days of visits and very in-depth interviews to gather. And I also would encourage, if we do go this route, to begin with the end in mind. Meaning, if someone brings up a concern, what would we do with that information? If someone says they need help, who would we go to relay that information? Because it can be very off-putting for us to say we can help or offer assistance and then not be able to actually follow through with that. And so I would want us to really talk about this fully, begin kind of with the end in mind. What would we do with this information, and then go from there.
Thank you for clarifying. That's super helpful. And I know we can get that addressed once OHA looks over all the questions and concerns. So I just want to, just want to make sure I'm not. Okay, so I've got Onisha and then Dharma, and then there is a question from Jackie in the chat, and I'm hoping that I did not accidentally skip over anybody. But go ahead, Onisha. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you. So I agree with a lot of the stuff that I'm hearing. Like, I'm really ambivalent on whether we should do site visits or not. On one hand, I think it's possible that they could be helpful for the grantees and the community, because it means that we're taking the oversight very seriously, and we're also making ourselves available if people have questions or concerns. And a human person is much better than just an email. Also, something came in mind when somebody said something about like, I don't know what word they use, but like favoritism. If we go to a site visit, is it going to alter the way we vote? Like, is that going to be one of our favorite sites? If we really like the work they're doing, is it going to be hard for us to make a logical vote if we have to make a hard decision about that organization? That could be something we need to take a look at. Another thing I was thinking about is that being 100% transparent in our entire process. Everything about the OAC has been in a fishbowl. Like, our mess ups, our hard conversations, our frustrations, everything has been under this scrutiny, and we've dealt with it and rode the wave because we want to be 100% transparent with the public. And in that same vein of transparency, I'm kind of struggling and a little ambivalent about not doing the site visit, because if people are being culturally agile and equitable with the participants that they're serving, why wouldn't they want us to do a site visit? And then I also struggle with, are we the right people to do it? And then I also struggle with, I heard some concerns about offering suggestions. Like, I really think if we did do the site visit, we really shouldn't offer suggestions. But like Amy said, just listen, bring back the feedback, and observe and take notes. And then another thing I heard, I think it was Melinda put in the chat about other alternatives. And one of the alternatives, I'm not sure if we've implemented it all, but getting some help from the OHA legal team to make a blanket statement. You know how you go into some organizations and they have like the bully signs? I think we should have the complaint phone number and email visible for the clients and the staff, that this is a Measure 110 funded organization. If you have questions, concerns, or complaints, you can email this. And if we made that a standard for all of the organizations to display openly in their organizations, it could kind of like make that information available, because I don't think the public, especially the participants, has that information. So there could be things going on and they don't even know how to complain or who to complain to. Thank you.
Thank you, Onisha. I think that's important. I know, yeah, depending on the type of organization you visit, sometimes there are rights as, your rights as a healthcare, somebody receiving healthcare or receiving different services. But I think that maybe we can get some more information from DOJ and OHA on ways that we can make it as easy as possible for people to give their feedback and to know that they have the ability to do so. through Measure 110 funded organizations. So Dharma, I believe you are next, and then I'm going to go through the chat and see if there's some things there that I've missed. So go ahead, Dharma.
I guess I just have a question, since I work with a lot of facilities around the state doing like trainings and those kinds of things. If we have a policy that disallows council members from doing like site visits, is that only in our capacity as a council member? So like if we went in to do a site visit or an evaluation on the request of a burn, would it put us in a precarious situation if we like do that professionally outside of our work as a council member? Yeah, and especially thinking about like affinity groups, like going in to help a burn build its capacity to serve like transgender clients, for instance. I don't think that's the same thing as a site visit, but it requires a lot of the same things. And so I'm just hoping to get some clarity on that, or to see if that's a question I need to bring to the ethics folks. Thanks.
Thank you, Dharma. That's definitely, yeah, it would be great to get some clarification on that. So, I was just scrolling through the chat. Jessica, did you want to jump in?
I just want to make the quick public service announcement that if you ever have a question and you think it might need to go to the ethics folks, bring it to the ethics folks. That you can never go wrong with doing that. That's all.
Thank you. So I see some folks agreeing with Onisha, and John just had a little clarification that if it made sense, OHA could certainly visit a site as part of the role that we designate to them, and grant administrators. As earlier comment was with regard to visiting all sites. Jackie had a question about maybe a way to have updates from grantees that we see, including pictures, and I'm not sure if that's something that could maybe happen as a part of the reporting piece. Is that what it's called? Reporting reporting piece for grantees. Dharma, is your hand still up, or did you put it up again? I am not sure.
Sorry, I'm just driving. It's still up.
You're good. Okay. Then I will go ahead and call on Sabrina. And if somebody had something in the chat that I missed that you want discussed, please try to raise your hand because I'm doing my best. All right, go ahead, Sabrina.
Yeah, I love the idea of what Anisha said, and I was literally thinking that this afternoon is about having a piece of paper of some sort, and to make it equitable and easy for the burn grantees, burn awardees. And I don't know if it's too late in the game to say, hey, can you please post a printout of the Measure 110 email box, and or I think it's only the email box. I don't think we have a phone number to take questions, comments, or concerns for the people that are receiving the services from the burn partners or burn entities across the state. So I was wondering, is that feasible? And if you don't have the questions now to that, could we put that on the table or for the topic conversation for the tri-chairs coming in the upcoming weeks? Because if that's feasible, I would totally be interested in seeing that happen. And I see your hands up, Jessica.
Yeah, thanks, Sabrina, and thank you, Onisha, for that great idea. I think what we're doing right now is we're just trying to elicit from you your ideas of what you want to see, and so that we can go back and we can talk with DOJ and we can bring you some more information that will help you make some more informed decisions. So all of the questions that you're asking and all the things that you want clarity on, we are taking very good notes. We have several people taking notes to ensure that we are kind of capturing the spirit of what we're hearing, and that we can bring back some more information. So we are absolutely doing that. That's kind of what this was meant to be, is just a facilitated conversation, because like, as I think has been made clear, there are different ideas of what a site visit is. There are different things that people want to see. And so we just want to ensure that we're bringing you the best information we can, because I think sometimes if we don't do this, we miss the mark and we bring you information. You're like, that might not answer my question. So please know that we are going to be responsive to all of this. And thank you for this really great conversation.
Thank you, Jessica. And if someone could also just note that we may need to just have a separate agenda topic around how folks can get feedback on the services they're receiving or not able to receive, because it's related, but I think we may have had a more in-depth conversation as tri-chairs than a full council. So just to make sure that we have the time and space to discuss that and, get on the same page. I think that would be helpful. And Sabrina, I see your hand.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, and if we, in addition, we could still talk about as a separate topic piece about getting the information for the people receiving services in their hands of how they can follow up with the complaint or a question, a comment, a concern, any of those things in an equitable manner, because not everybody that is receiving services can just pick up their phone and send an email or just sit down and know how to do that. So is that feasible? Is it too late in the game? Can we do that? And so in the future, as we continue to go on, if we could please maybe get some information regarding that. Thank you very much, Jessica. And I'll put my hand down, and I do see Dharma has her hand up, Lou.
So I just will also say that one thing that was brought up, I don't know that it's been said to the whole council, is that we talked a lot about complaints, and then we realized people might want to actually compliment or say something nice. So there is a parallel process that is being created so that instead of just only getting complaints, we can maybe also hear about successes. And I will let Dharma go next.
Yeah, just in line with what Sabrina was sharing too, I think it's really important that we have a third party option for folks to report things that are maybe issues related to discrimination, especially. It can put a lot of strain on clients, I think, to have to submit that kind of feedback and then worry if it's going to go to someone that's also managing their healthcare. So I just really want to speak to the importance of getting that information out promptly to burn clients, because they could have that feedback that they need in order to get life-saving treatment. So I think that it should be a really big priority for us to get that out there and to develop some back channels for folks to do that without worrying about messing up their own healthcare.
Thank you, Dharma. Yeah, that is definitely something that we should work on sooner rather than later. And I'm also hoping that part of that would be, on our website somewhere, making it very clear how people can access that whole process and how they can give feedback, because I need really clear instructions that are in low literacy level for me to be able to understand how I need to go through that process. We can take the slides down. And then I guess I just wanted to check in to see if other folks had comments or questions at this time around site visits. It sounds like a lot of us maybe had a different definition of a site visit than, which is fine. And we can work to define a site visit or a site review, or whatever they're called. Dharma, is your hand still up, or did you put it back up? Because I am not sure.
No, it's supposed to be down. Sorry.
Okay, all good. Just wanted to double check. So I think I'm gonna maybe turn it back over to who? I don't know if it's Jessica or Sabrina. And I did want to ask if we do have time and the information, if we still had open positions on the council and if applications were still open for some of those positions. And if we can't do that today, that's okay too. But that was just a last question that I had, but I will turn it back over to you, Sabrina.
Thank you, Blue. I do see the last thing on the agenda was to give an update about the clearinghouse, and that it still is there. Was the update that there's still more coming this year? Do you know, Blue or Jessica? Go ahead.
I have that. Yeah. So it's just a reminder or to acknowledge that you all asked for a presentation from the clearinghouse, and that should be happening in January. We have it scheduled to happen in January, you know, barring anything, any unforeseen stuff. So just an update there. That's all.
Thank you, Jessica. And Kristen?
I just wanted to respond to Blue's question. We do have our application still open for 3 vacant council positions. We are seeking 2 statutorily required positions, which are a representative of ACCO and a physician that specializes in addiction medicine. We are also seeking a council member that specializes or has a background in supported employment. Those applications close at the end of the year. And so we encourage any interested people to apply in the next week and a half or so.
Thank you so much, Kristen. And I don't have anything else on the agenda. I thank everybody we did accomplish a lot of work and we had a lot of robust conversation. And so with that, I hope everybody has a good weekend, however you celebrate it. And with that, I do not have anything else to add. So I'm going to go ahead and log off.
All right.